Hey guys, welcome back to Pink Moose Podcast. My name is Tim. Today I'm joined with Josh.
Hello.
And Trev.
Ew.
All right, so we're going to get right into it. Today we are going to be talking about first some trailers that we've seen this week that are new. So the first one I got is the Kraven the Hunter trailer. Did you guys watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
What do you guys
I don't
thoughts
know
on it?
how I feel about it, to be honest with you. The Sony, the Sony movies are notoriously bad. And if you look at, I just read something that the Sony came out and they were like, yeah, we actually pushed back Kraven because, we realized that it needs some more work and we want this to be on par with the Venom series.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if those are your goalposts, man.
I don't know, that might be a good thing or it could be a bad thing that they're pulling back and doing like reshoots and re-edits because maybe they saw it was bad and now they're trying to fix it.
Yeah, I am all for like people pushing back dates in order to make it better. Like that's something I've seen Apple TV do a ton. Is like they are almost constantly pushing back their dates.
Yeah.
But they are just spot on with everything they are releasing. So I'd rather wait an extra month and have a good series that's gonna be around forever than them just rush it out and we end up with something that we just don't like.
Right. I think that with the Sony non-Marvel expanded universe that doesn't really tie in with the MCU. Madam Web, none of the actors are good. And Venom, none of the actors are good. Tom Hardy is great and Venom's good. But I think we might have something with Kraven because Aaron Taylor Johnson's actually kind of a good actor.
No, he really is.
He might be able to save it.
He's pretty slept on for sure.
Yeah.
My thing is, though, the Venom movies aren't bad movies. They're just too short.
I agree.
They tend to cut them out at like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half.
I thought they were pretty good because like they're taking a very comical way with the Venom movies, and I feel like if you were to drag that out too long, it might start to kill the energy.
They definitely are forefronting the Sony Marvel universe, the ones that are kind of the driving factor because they do have 3 movies, or the third one movie's coming out this year.
I was also reading that how like with the Hulk, like they can't use the Hulk because he's owned, so they can't do like a full story arc with the Hulk, a solo movie. That's why Marvel's been giving him his own arc.
Right.
But I was reading that Sony, once they use a character, Marvel can't use that character.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they've been. I think that's why they're capitalizing on all these big characters right now.
Jump on all these characters.
They're trying to jump on all these characters because there's some clause in the contract where they can't use the character then.
Really?
If Sony's currently using the character.
So they're trying to lock down all.
So they're
the
trying
characters.
to lock down some of these characters. It's actually a big old war between Sony and Marvel right now. And the back scene, you don't see it, but.
I wasn't aware of that, but that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's trashing all their movies.
And they don't even have to have a good movie.
They just
have to have
a
movie. So that's why I don't think that they care that Madam Web sucked. I don't think that they care that the Venom movies aren't necessarily great. That's why they have 3 of them. Plus they make money.
Okay, so do you think they're gonna like really push out these movies just to lock down the character and then try to do a better, like do the character justice, or they just know it's gonna make money and they don't care?
I think that's probably where we're at.
I mean, maybe, but I also don't think Sony necessarily cares about their film division. They have so many things going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Marvel, I mean, they have their comics and they have their their merchandise and they have their movies, and their movies are big winners. And they have been slacking, but you can at least see that they're trying and kind of like find due north again.
That's true. Sony is a giant company with lots of fingers in different pies. Like, I love the Sony cameras. That's what we like to shoot on.
Right.
Whereas, like, Disney and Marvel, that's all they are is entertainment and putting out
they're
video
really
content.
on top of that.
But that would make a whole lot of sense it makes sense because, without Spider-Man, who's Kraven going to fight, He's a hunter, right? And he's trying to hunt the apex predator, which he finds out to be Spider-Man in New York City, right? Right. But without Spider-Man, who else does he have to hunt besides like lions, and it's like just like the animals, So I think that's one of the reasons that they dropped Rhino as well. Is I think they're trying to take Rhino away from Marvel as well.
Yeah,
and that's really interesting because like I don't know all that much about the story of the character and the comics and such. All I know is the trailer.
Yeah,
and from that for me I thought it looked pretty cool. It's kind of like it's got like that kind of like John-esque style of combat fighting and stuff without just
the John Wick.
Like, yeah, that's what I mean.
We don't need John. We don't need John's last name.
Yeah, we know what John is.
Yeah, I mean, fighting and John, we all know it's Wick.
John, pencil,
Yeah, and so, yeah, it looked like it was going to
John
be
Stamos.
good action scenes, and so yeah, screw it. Like, if that's all it is, I'm down.
I'm totally down, and that's what the Venom movies are, really. You know, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna think it's gonna be cool. You know?
Yeah. Then their big thing is I think that they like to drop other characters, like you were saying. But I think that kind of pulls too. Like Carnage was not great, but the Carnage has enough pull to be able to pull people into the movie theater. You know. In Venom, and I think Venom is like a Harley Quinn character where he's like not a good guy, not a bad guy anymore. So he kind of has that. He has a lot of dynamic being a bad guy and a good guy. So, but with this Craven movie, I think that it was a good idea putting Rhino in there, and like a comic accurate Rhino too, where he takes a serum. It's not just a metal suit.
Yeah.
I think that's really fun. I think the big pull for me, and this I don't know if this is necessarily a strong enough pull for me not to go see the movie, but I like Aaron Taylor Johnson, but when I think of Craven, I think of like Clayton from the Tarzan movies, you know, like a big dude with a mustache. He looks very cut, but not giant. He's not like a big guy, and Craven's a big guy, so I'll have to see.
Right.
I'll have to see definitely, but overall,
I think they're also, you know, they have the rights to all these like you said, nobody really knows who Craven really is. Nobody really knows his backstory.
Right.
And, you know, Morbius is kind of the same way. That's like making a Man-Bat movie for Batman. You know, it's like nobody really knows who these characters are, but they do need more love. So I think at the end of the day, I'm just glad that these characters are getting love. Yeah. You know, just getting content.
Morbius is a very good comparison. Like, that's what it looks like. That type of movie they're setting up. I just hope they do better justice to the ending.
Well, it doesn't have Jared Leto in it, so it's going to be inherently better.
So everybody, 2 steps above. Yeah. But overall, I think it's going to be really fun. That comes out, I think, the end of this year.
Yeah, it comes out, I think, December, as they pushed it back to December.
But I'll definitely be seeing it and everything like that. But the next one we got, actually, is Hellboy. And Trev, you and I were talking about this before the podcast. You were saying that you'd never seen any of the Hellboy movies, right?
No, I haven't.
That's crazy.
But I have noticed from like what I have seen from different trailers and clips here and there that Hellboy keeps getting smaller throughout all the movies.
He's like the Hulk.
At this point, he is smaller than Chris Hemsworth, who is a semi-natural human being.
Yeah, he looks like he got painted red and just said, threw him out there on set. Like, all right, go for it. Yeah, I know. I think they are progressively the way this trailer's going. This one looks cool because it's very horror-oriented. It looks like a horror movie with Hellboy in it, which the other ones were more like grotesque, fantastic. Yeah, you know, Guillermo del Toro.
That's what I was gonna say.
His whole entire thing,
yeah,
is like just fun, but not super scary, but has like weird, grotesque.
It felt like Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, which those are great movies. Those are cult classic movies.
And I don't think I ever saw the David Harbour one.
The David Harbour one is good. They really tried to do it justice. It just didn't hit as well, I think. And I think that the change in voice in this one. David Harbour tried to emulate
Ron
Perlman a little bit, I think, but this guy just has a totally different voice too, and it's a comics, you know, originally, so he doesn't really have a voice, but I think he's so synonymous with Ron Perlman now that it's like Tony Stark's Iron Man. He kind of just is part of the character now, and that's just how he is, and I think I think it's gonna be good. I think it'll be a good movie.
Yeah.
Altogether.
I mean, I've never been the biggest Hellboy fan, you know, from the beginning. I'll probably see it. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait till it comes out on MV or on streaming.
Yeah.
Flex, one of those two.
Yeah. But I'm excited for the horror element of it.
I am too. I'm always, you know, I'm a horror junkie, so that's probably the biggest draw for me, you know. I've never
Yeah.
Maybe this will be Trav's first Hellboy movie.
Yeah.
Well, do you think I should just watch it, or should I watch the?
I mean, it's not like it's connected. It's like a remake.
Yeah,
know?
But like I was saying, he's very synonymous with Ron Perlman, so you might have a biased opinion after you watch the Ron. So maybe I would say
don't watch the Ron Perlman.
Don't watch him until after.
You know, I've been finding it fun to like do the Star Wars thing and jump in not at the first movie and kind of like backtrack a little bit.
Right.
So I'll probably just check this one out, and then if it's good, I'll check the others. But I'll definitely wait till it's on stream, and I don't think I'm going to pay money for this one.
This one actually is a not connected origin. It's like the beginning of Hellboy. It's like his first mission or something like that. So it's not technically connected,
what does
but it
Hellboy
could
even
be.
do?
He's part of a underground organization of monsters. He just fights demons. And it's like Van Helsing, where it's at a church.
Yeah.
And then there's like an underground with it.
Is he Marvel?
I think he's a Marvel IP. but he's not like he's a Marvel extended comic or distributed by.
Or is he
Marvel.
DC? Because he's in the DC game, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, he isn't
Injustice.
Right, but that one's not. Oh, he isn't that. You're right.
So maybe,
but
maybe
at the same
DC.
time, so is Leonardo, and that's not DC.
Well, that's Warner Brothers, though, isn't it?
I don't know. Honestly. I
don't
think it's,
know. I have no
Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it looks fun. And then lastly, for the new trailers we have the new Penguin trailer from the Matt Reeves universe. It's going to be like I think an origin story on the Penguin, right? On Colin Farrell's?
I thought it took place after the Batman.
Does it?
I think it
Okay.
takes place after the Batman in the aftermath, and he's kind of sweeping up the city
Yes,
now
you're totally right.
and taking power because he
Yeah,
was in
Del
power in the Batman, but I
Right.
think this is where he really states his name as being like I'm the Penguin and I rule this city.
Right, it's like season 1 of Gotham Penguin, right?
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Where he's trying to you
I just
see
hope
his
they don't-
upbringing.
I hope they don't bring Fish Mooney into it.
Yeah.
The worst character.
Yeah,
dude.
that was, yeah. But I think it looks really fun. I usually am not a gangster person,
Neither
TV
am
show
I.
person, but I like the Batman universe and the Penguin.
Yeah, I mean, I love gangster movies. Like watching The Town. I know it's not like a classic gangster movie like The Goodfellas. It's
Yeah.
like old school mobster, but they're still like they're a gang of bank robbers. It's still
Yeah.
gangster.
Sure. Okay. That's not traditionally what I think of when I think gangster movies, but I can see the sense of what you put it in, and it makes sense. You're right. And I do like The Town a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But like The Godfather is a little bit slow for me. Goodfellas is good, but
Or what was that one with all the big names like De Niro and
The Departed?
The Departed.
Yeah.
That's
Irishman.
That's a
good.
good one. The Irishman was too slow.
it was too
I
slow.
couldn't finish
Yeah,
it.
it was
Too long and too slow.
But I think that I'm gonna watch it definitely. It might take me a week extra to watch it, but I'll get through it definitely before the next one comes out. Which is kind of coinciding with the Batman re-release to theaters on the 28th of August.
Yes.
They're gonna have an exclusive Penguin sneak peek. I think the first episode, right?
I think it's not the first episode, but I think it's like a 20-minute
20-minute, yeah.
sneak peek that they're going to play after the movie
sounds
or
really fun.
before the movie. I don't know exactly when, but that's releasing back into theaters on August 28th.
Which I'm excited for.
I am too.
Definitely, because I never got to catch it the first time it came around in theaters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you seen it at all?
Oh yeah, I've seen
Okay.
it. I
We-
just didn't catch it in theaters, unfortunately.
We went and saw it in 4DX when we went. And we were in the front row. And, 4DX is where it
Yeah.
sprays water. It's Gotham, so there's explosions and rain all the time.
Literally,
so you're just like
I walked out of
around
that
the whole
theater
movie.
soaking wet because it's just raining the entire movie.
It's so
you
funny.
know?
Yeah.
And we got tickets. We decided to go last minute, and we had a big group. There was maybe 8 or 9 of us. So we were like, okay, let's go and let's do it 40X. And the only seats available were the front row. So
You're just getting like whiplash.
you're
and
getting
sprayed.
whiplash, and you're in the Batmobile the whole time too. So you're just getting rocked around like it's like a roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
But you're at the same time you're trying to watch the movie, but you have to keep your head completely craned up,
so close up to the
because you're so
screen.
close to the screen. Don't recommend that for anyone.
Yeah.
Not a good experience.
It would be fun to go see it just regular again in theaters, because I think that was the only time I saw it in theaters, and it kind of took away from it, I want to say, as much as I wanted it to be better.
But that being said, we did produce and direct and write our own Batman short fan film,
Yeah.
called Batman: The Harvest Moon, which is supposed to be set in the same universe as this Robert Pattinson Batman, Matt Reeves Batman, and kind of plays as a sequel where Batman goes up against the Scarecrow.
Yeah, it's been received very well by everyone who's seen it, and if you guys like Batman and would like to check it out, just click our link down here.
Our link, it's on our YouTube, Pink Moose Productions. We plan to do some interesting and I kind of, just like real guerrilla marketing for it to kind of coincide with this. So we did print out some business cards with a QR code that will take you directly to the video, but they're kind of niche, where like one of them looks like a Joker card with blood splatter on it, which is kind of cool. And the other one is the classic Bat credit card.
Yeah, from Batman and Robin.
Yeah, so if you're local to LA, just keep an eye out. There's gonna be a couple posters, business cards you might find. That's left by yours truly.
Not to mention, we do plan to roll out a Riddler trophy kind of riddle hunt and plan to give prizes out for that. Right now we're thinking, an AMC gift card if you can solve the riddle. So keep an eye out for the Riddler trophy posters around the city of LA.
Yeah, if you're in the good puzzle, good little hunt, and a good movie at the end of it, check it out. Look out for it.
Yeah, it might be fun, yeah.
If you're a real Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, if you think you're as good of a Batman as Batman.
Good of a Batman as Batman.
Yeah.
So
Go check it out. So for the next thing, we have our new foods from just crazy foods that we've all been trying. And today I got the tzatziki chips and the curry chips. So if you guys want to try those.
All right.
Yeah.
So
we can.
we got the two here. Which one's which? Because I feel like they would both be orange, but one's yellow.
Tzatziki is white, so tzatziki is gonna be this white one here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So try and let me know what you think.
Because I don't know my Middle Eastern foods well enough.
Now before we start,
Go ahead.
I have to admit that I eat a couple of these because they are very good.
The tzatziki chips are awesome.
They're really good. Yeah.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like a Mediterranean bowl in my mouth.
It does. And,
Oh, I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely probably the best chip we tried on this podcast.
It's like a whole euro.
Yeah.
It's like a Willy Wonka. It's like a
Even
Willy
the
Wonka
aftertaste.
everlasting
I
Godfather.
just need a falafel on the side right
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a turkey dinner and dessert.
Yeah. So you can find those at any just grocery store. Usually on end caps.
We found
we
them
can
at our
find them.
local grocery store, Vons.
Bonds, yes. But they're very good. Check them out if you guys like tzatziki and chips, or just tzatziki or chips.
And then we have these curry chips.
Yeah, and then the curry chips.
Now, I've heard a lot of opinions from you on curry, so I want to see how this stacks up.
Well,
Hopefully it
the
doesn't
curry
tear you up.
Yeah, so the curry flavor is not bad. I like the curry flavor, but when you eat curry and you're not used to eating like curry the dish, it'll mess you up, man. From the beginning, it'll tear you apart. But these are pretty good. They don't really taste like. It just tastes like they put curry powder.
It's very subtle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
it tastes like
subtle.
a chip with just a little bit of curry powder.
It almost
Yeah,
tastes
it's
like a
not
barbecue
overpowering
chip.
at all. Yeah, it's just like a extra flavorful barbecue
Barbecue chip.
Mhm. I like them
Which
both.
I'm into.
Yeah, I think the
These
tzatziki
are-
is definitely the better one of
Yeah.
the two that we tried. But
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna crush that back later.
Oh yeah, it will not last long.
no.
Yeah.
Tzatziki chips. Yeah. And then in the next couple of weeks, actually September 9th, we're going to have an Oreo Coke collab we're going to be looking for. Try that out and review it.
I'm excited for that because I am all over the new Oreo flavors.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm all over the
love
new
it.
Coke flavors.
Yeah.
You know, I think we live in the golden age of three things, and that is, junk food, cereal, and soda. Like
Just making everything.
they're just making everything.
And they're collabing.
Yeah.
The Peeps
I love
Pepsi,
it.
and they're collabing. Yeah.
Like I don't drink a whole lot of pop anymore, but I love when they come out with new flavors. Like that's my go-to when I'm looking for something a little bit of sweet. Like that is the thing nowadays to go find out those new flavors.
Just a random flavor.
I don't drink soda, but I will. Whenever a new flavor comes out, I'll go buy it. I'll take a sip of it, and then I'll just give it away to somebody else. Be like, "Here, you want this?" Just so I can try it because I need to try these new flavors. And I'm a Coke person to begin with. I don't even like Pepsi is not my choice. I like Coca-Cola over that. So I'm into Coke and Oreo collab because I think that those are two things that don't necessarily go together, but man, it might be a match
I'm
made in
excited.
heaven. You might make a whole lot of sense,
But another thing I want to touch on real quick is we've been saying soda a lot, but from the Midwest, we're from, it's a lot more poppy. You've been changing that on purpose because LA.
No, I actually picked that up when I was in Memphis. They actually call it everything as a Coke down there in Memphis, but I had a couple of friends from the East Coast out there who would call it soda, and I picked it up from there. So it was weird because growing up in the Midwest would call it pop, but everybody from Memphis would just call it Coke, and they would know what you mean. You would go to a restaurant, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, can I get a Coke?" And they come back with like a Fanta. It's like, how do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys both lived in like the mid-South, I would say, in Tennessee, different places, Memphis and Nashville. But do they call
wild at different times? Just totally
different yeah. But did you ever pick up anyone saying like a white Coke or a clear Coke for Sprite? Because I've heard that as a
No, I never
vernacular
heard
they
that.
use.
So when I was in Nashville, they weren't so much on the Coke thing describing everything. It was, they definitely said soda.
Yeah.
And there were a couple times where I said pop, and as soon as it came out of
They
my
looked
mouth,
everyone-
They
I
rail
saw
you
the
for
eyes.
it.
They just stared me down. They're like, "Oh, you're not from here."
Oh, you're
The South is very welcoming on the outside, but on the inside, they're not very welcoming. They're not. I remember, whenever I'd have my Chicago accent, they would even just be like, "You're not from here," They'd be like, "How do you say that again?" And I'd be like, "Chicago," and they'd be like, "Interesting." Let's see, you don't talk right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they are. Southern hospitality is definitely a thing, but they are very open to like letting you know that they know you're an outsider.
That you're an outsider, 100%. It's like the Nashville goodbye is, you know, in the music world, the Nashville goodbye is kind of like the idea where they'll be like, oh my goodness, that was so good. You're so talented. You know, you'll definitely be hearing from us. And then they just never call you because they don't have the Southern, you know, hospitality is so strong. They just don't have the heart to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the moral of that story, when you're on vacation, anyone just use the specific name of the drink you're using.
Yeah.
Just
When in
if
Rome,
it's a
man.
Fanta, call it Orange Fanta. Don't give them any room to berate you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked up soda there.
Yeah.
So. But I'm excited for this Oreo Coke collab because I think the Oreos are gonna be Coke flavored and the Coke is gonna be Oreo flavored.
Yep, and they're gonna have little like I guess emulation of carbonation in the cookie. So it's gonna be like a pop rock, yeah, or something like that, which is gonna be crazy, I think.
Great.
So I know Matt's still looking for those all over the place once they come out. He's been on top of that, and the Taco Bell new release of some new foods. I know Matt's been on too, and I know we're gonna probably.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so he kind of was explaining it to me. These are coming out November, I believe, and there is a Baja Blast gelato coming out.
What?
Which sounds awesome.
Oh, these are things that they
They announced that keynote.
at the keynote.
Yeah, but they're finally coming out.
Wait, Taco Bell has a keynote?
Yeah, they had a
You gotta watch it, yeah.
It was crazy.
It's like an Apple keynote. They were literally trying to like fake a keynote from Apple. You know, like it was.
I'm
winning their own
100%
thing.
into that.
Yeah.
I need to check
It's
that
so
out.
funny.
They had like a big crunch wrap on there, and then they were like, "Here's our classic crunch wrap," and then like a scanner came across it and like showed you what was inside of it, and it was like
They put a big cheese.
like a big cheese in the crunch wrap, and it looked like it was like a computer that was like taking away all the parts and being.
Yeah,
I love how extra Taco Bell is.
it's so good.
Because
Yeah,
it's
so,
the worst grade of food, but it's so good.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
they're
good.
so over the top. It's just
and they know
you
everyone's
can't help
into
but
it.
love
That's
it.
the one fast food that I can never give up.
Yeah. So in compliment to that, we also are going to be getting a Baja Blast pie. And you can buy a full pie of Baja Blast. It's
Which I
coming
think
out around Thanksgiving,
We tried
November.
that.
No, they might have had like
I think Matt tried a
pre-releases.
pre-release.
Yeah,
I think
but
Matt tried
it's
a
coming to like
pre-release.
mass market November around Thanksgiving. So that'd be weird to have a Baja Blast pie around Thanksgiving time.
It will be.
But it might be good. It might be good.
It might be good.
It looks like it's going to be the same consistency as a pumpkin pie.
It might also destroy you. like
It
curry.
probably
It
will.
will
Like,
destroy
it will definitely
you.
destroy you.
Taco Bell and curry are on the same level.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the new foods we have coming up in this week and then the next couple months. We're excited to try them and stay tuned in the next couple episodes to see our review on those. All right, for our next segment, we have our Movie Weekly. And this week we had Josh who picked the movie. Josh,
No,
you
Trevor
want...
picked it.
Yeah, man, what you give
All
me
right.
some credit.
Trevor's older than me.
All right, let's do it. All right, Trevor, you picked it. You want to tell us what you picked and why you picked it?
Yeah, so I picked My Dinner with Andre because we've been kind of going back and forth between like older movies and newer movies because we want to stay fresh with what's up to date, but we also, you can't disregard what's already been made because there's so much good stuff from the past that when you're just catching up what's coming out now, you're gonna lose out on everything that the early filmmakers, the people that the shoulders that we stand on nowadays as filmmakers.
Yeah.
And so with My Dinner with Andre, that was a looking back type movie. And it is so interesting because it's been on my list for a while because it's just two people sitting in a restaurant having a conversation. It's basically just a podcast.
It is.
But it is so enthralling. And it's not like any other movie because there's no music, which I guess No Country for Old Men did that, where you just use sound design.
Yeah.
But it's just you hear the sounds of the restaurant going as these people are having a conversation. And it is so enticing the way that they can hold your attention for 2 hours with just two people talking. And I know we get that with podcasts, but
Yeah, but
decades ago,
it's different to. I think it's different to listen to something because when I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks, and I'm almost always doing something while I'm listening to these. You
Yeah.
know, it's a different thing to sit down for 2 hours and just watch a screen and listen to a podcast. You know, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't know anybody who does that.
Yeah, with a movie, it's like you're actually actively sitting down and you're investing in it. you can't just multitask. You're actually trying to watch the movie, and this is that type of movie where you have to kind of sit down.
And you probably could just sit there and listen to it, but I think the performances given from these people that are just sitting there having a conversation are so good because it feels so natural, and yet I'm sure it's scripted to a point, but the performances are so on par. You can really feel the emotion. You can see it. You have to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that. The performances, it did not feel scripted at all. And it's funny because the two main characters actually play themselves in the movie.
Yeah.
So, what are their names again, though?
Wallace.
It's the guy from
Princess Bride.
Princess
Wallace.
Bride.
Here, I think Josh.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
But
Obviously.
Obviously. Yeah, it's Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn, and it was actually written by those two as well. So it makes a whole lot of sense that it doesn't feel scripted because it's coming from their mind. You know?
They both are actor producers in it, so it kind of leads you to believe that it's actually maybe they're talking from real life experience.
Yeah.
Because Wallace, what's his last name?
Shawn?
Wallace Shawn was a professor before he was an actor, and he talks a little bit about when he was a Latin teacher.
Yeah.
And
they bring a lot of their own personal lives into the script.
And I was reading a little bit about Andre as well, and before he became an actor-producer, his family were Jewish in the concentration camps.
So that's why he talks so much about
he kept bringing
Nazis.
back the concentration camps and Nazis, I think, is because they are pulling from what they know. And I think that makes it so much more natural and so much more enthralling.
I think on a deeper level, I think it was just a great movie because, I think we're saying that did feel a little bit like they were pulling from just their natural. And they always say, write what you know. And obviously they did write what they knew. But I think, part of the movie was Andre was talking about how he's had this picture of this girl for, 20 years. And he would always look at this picture. And in the picture, she was in a nice dress, and she was laying, and he was like, she just looked sexy, But then one day I looked at the picture, and I was like, this is the saddest girl in the entire world. I actually saw her, and a big portion of that movie towards the end is talking about being present and being with somebody and actually seeing them for who they are, and not just being next to somebody. And I feel like we were actually there with these people. I was actually seeing there was nuances on Wallace's face and nuances on Andre's face, and I was like, I feel like I'm actually here with these people.
Yeah, right. It really starts off as just kind of the Wallace character kind of almost like interviewing Andre a little bit, like these kind of stale questions, get the conversation going, and Andre really gets into this campfire story, which is really interesting, and I don't want to give too much away, but after that, it really starts getting deep and touching on these existential questions that everyone has floating in their mind, and these two people that just really get into it with each other and talk about the big ideas of life.
Yeah, right. I think that in the beginning of the movie, you kind of feel that, but then it quickly goes from just a conversation to you realizing that it's a character study, not just on a character, but on society as a whole.
Yeah.
And
I think I was gonna say, I think to Trev's point, I personally do a lot of existential thinking, and I don't think there's a single thing in that movie that I had not thought of before, personally, because it's things that I think we all think about, whether we want to admit it or not. But I also feel like there were perspectives that I had never thought of before, though.
Yeah, exactly.
The topics I had thought of, but I got perspective that I didn't have.
And it's really great because they end up towards the end getting into more civil arguments where it's just debating versus just asking questions, and then you get the perspective, and then you might get the perspective that you had thought about before, but then you're always getting a separate, completely opposite foil perspective that makes you really think maybe this is a better way to think about that.
They really take that whole idea of when you're writing, if two people are having a conversation, or more specifically an argument, both characters are right. Yeah. If there are people having an argument, at least two people have to be right, because you can't write something and have, in your mind be thinking this one character is wrong and they're going to have bad arguments and they're going to lose in the end. Both characters have to have valid points, and that's the entire movie is two people with two different valid points going head to head, and they have a little bit of history, And like they haven't talked to each other in a couple of years, but like after a little bit of talking to each other, they warm back up, and so you have this old history where they can really get deep and raw with each other and have a good conversation.
Yeah, I think, I brought it, I bring a lot of it back because Tim and I have lived together for so long and we're brothers, and we're both working in the same kind of industry together. I bring it back a lot to us, and there was a lot of times where I was thinking that if Tim and I had this conversation, it would have been a little bit more, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. But there were definitely times in the movie where they said, I disagree with that, but it was never hostile. It was never a point where it was like, I disagree and you're wrong. It was just, I disagree.
Right, and you can have your perspective, I have my perspective.
Yeah, exactly. They're able to agree to disagree on certain points.
Right. Yeah.
And still continue the conversation, not just have it end in a bombshell.
Right, which is the only way that I think that movie worked. Because I think if you did have a disagree where you're wrong, and that might be one of the things that's wrong with us today and as a society, but if you do have that conversation, you're just like, if we had that movie and Tim and I were the characters having the exact same script, but we were just changing the disagrees to disagrees you're wrongs, I don't think it would have been as enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
And yeah, they really end on a way that they don't take either side. It really gives the audience the ability to pick and choose different points from each side, because each side is valid, and you walk away with more to think about rather than just being told like this is how it's supposed to be, because the questions they're touching on are things that we really can't figure out. Stuff you just kind of have to ask yourself and hope you choose what works for you in life.
Right. This movie had been on my watch list for a couple of weeks now, mainly because I came across something on TikTok, I think, where they were talking about this movie, and I had never heard of it before until that. And they were talking about how it applies to today still, even the conversation
100%.
topics.
I think it does.
Apply to today, and I think
Really.
it does too. But I don't think it necessarily applies today. The way that I took away that how it applies today is we live in a world where we have infinite information. And they did not. When this movie was filmed, it wasn't necessarily infinite information.
1981, yeah.
No, they didn't have Google and all that.
No, we have the internet at our fingertips. I mean, this new iPhone 16 is going to have 6 gigabytes of RAM. That's almost as powerful as a baseline Mac. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
Yeah, in your pocket.
In my pocket, So, I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways was that we tend to think that we know more than we know, and we've shut the door on these existential questions to say, I don't know, or I disagree, this is my thought on it, because we tend to deal in absolutes now. I can go and find, if I was to say to Trevor, drinking 3 cups of coffee a day, makes your eyesight better. I can go find probably 3 or 4, published articles from, scientific journals that corroborate that.
With the world being connected as it is with the internet, you can find any source to validate your opinion this point.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean it's right, but you can find a bunch of other people that will validate you.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I think this movie, it pulls off a big feat because domestically it did not do well. I don't think it was a big movie when it first came out.
I think it
made $5,000.
Yeah.
But I think the feat about it is that it's become a big cult classic movie, I feel like. And it's still relevant today. And I would beg to bet that it probably cost about $5,000, if not less, to make it.
Well, I think if that, but only because camera equipment was so much more expensive back
I think that's the
then.
thing. If they were to make it nowadays, they could do it shoestring budget, almost nothing. But back then, they had to actually run film, and then the lights they probably had to set up.
With them writing and producing and acting in it, they could have done that for free. I mean, our Batman movie that we did, we shot it on, what kind of camera did we shoot it on?
That was a Sony, the A7C.
The A7C. Yeah. Okay, so we did that, and I think we got away with making a 30-minute Batman fan film for like $3,000.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible to make low-budget quality movies nowadays, and I think they could have done that for free. But back then, obviously that was a big investment, I'm sure, for them, I don't know, had Princess Bride come out at that point?
No, this was before Princess Bride. I think this was about 9 years prior.
Because that was the 90s.
This is early 80s. Yeah. So I mean, I think at this point, both of these guys had relatively, no careers necessarily, or were just starting out in their careers. And I feel like this is like a student film
that is the best student film that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I could see that definitely.
And there's one extra character in there we haven't touched on because it's basically just two guys talking are the only character in the movie. But there's also the waiter,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so underrated. That guy, I love him too much. Like he's so blinky with the eyes.
yeah.
Something about him. Like if they could have just cast a normal bland waiter to have those parts, but for some reason I enjoyed this guy so much.
know. I don't know. Did he even say anything?
He
Like,
would say,
barely.
would you like dessert?
Dessert or something like
But
that.
I think it was, to Charles' point, I think it's really funny because he was very verbal about it. And he would just randomly pop up, but he kind of seemed like a waiter would actually be it. It's a middle to higher class restaurant, but they're there sitting there. You find out until like after the place closes down. So the waiter's probably like, dude, guys, because there's multiple times throughout the movie where he's like, is everything okay? Because they're talking loud, you know?
I also think that these two characters, as a character study, are the perfect two characters to have this conversation because they're kind of foils of each other. Wallace being more of a cynic, who's an aspiring actor who's gotten some recognition and some work in his past, but he's like starts the movie by saying, "I don't have any money,"
Yeah.
and I'm like really struggling in New York.
Right.
And then you have, Andre, who is this kind of the acclaimed director who kind of had an existential crisis, but has a lot of money and kind of just went and traveled the world to find, his sort of, direction. Now, he even says in the movie, maybe you can find it here in your room in New York, but I had to do this. And I think that we have both of those characters in us kind of at all times.
Yeah, and I love that was a big driving point for each character. There's one that found himself by going out into the world and exploring, and one who's been finding himself just at home.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I think Wallace at the end even says, I splurged or I spoiled myself and bought a taxi on the way home just to like show how little money he has. Like he wouldn't have been able to pay for that dinner,
Right.
It's just like I don't know. I think there was I think it's a good watch, and I think everybody should watch it. And I think it's been parodied enough in other like shows. I think the Family Guy did it. I think
Community's done it.
Community's done it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think overall it's definitely worth a watch. I think it's one of the better ones we've had for our.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a roller coaster ride like a lot of movies are, but it's definitely going to keep you enthralled. It's going to be entertaining.
It'll
if
make
you're
you
ready
think.
to sit down and like have a good think, watch this movie.
Yes.
I'm thinking that I'm gonna give it the Pink Moose stamp of approval. What do you
All
guys
right.
think?
Is that a thing now?
Yeah.
This is the first one.
All right. There you go. There you have it, guys.
The Pink Moose stamp of approval.
All right. I'll give it.
Ding.
It's good. All right. So, Josh, you're the next person who has to pick a movie, and you're going to have to pick a movie from this year released. So you can either pick it now if you have one, or if not.
I already have one.
Let's hear it.
I'm gonna pick Oddity.
Oddity.
Ooh,
It's a
yeah.
horror movie that comes out. It came out in theaters already, but it comes out on streaming on the 20th of August. It came out the exact same time as Longlegs. Now, we saw Longlegs, and we reviewed Longlegs in a previous podcast. And we were kind of let down by Longlegs. And I think Longlegs might have been a product of marketing, which the marketing on it was really good, and that's why it blew up. But I hadn't even heard about Oddity until a friend came over who's also a horror kind of buff, and he was like, "Have you seen Oddity?" And I said, "No, I haven't even heard of it." And he said it came out the same time as Longlegs, but it's so good. And right now it has better ratings than Longlegs does on both IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes.
All right. So, yeah, tune in next week for our review on Oddity.
Will it get the Pink Moose stamp of approval?
Only
We
time will
will
tell.
see.
Yeah, I got it. All right, then our final kind of topic today we're going to talk about is solo missions and just what we've been all working on, watching, listening to. So, Trev, you want to start?
Yeah, so I have been going through the Umbrella Academy with you, and
Yes.
it has
So
been
fun.
pretty good so far.
I think
I'm loving it.
It's kind of setting up to be the best season, if not the first season, the best season.
Oh, you think so?
I-
Best
I-
one so
I
far?
don't know. I like it a lot.
I like it. This last episode, because we just watched, the fourth episode?
Yeah, I think we have 2 episodes left.
Yeah. So getting pretty close to the end, which kind of has me a little worried that they don't have quite enough time to really
That's fair.
finish out the season in a proper way.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, it has been pretty enjoyable. I've loved the entirety of the run of Umbrella Academy, but I'm also a little bit biased because I love Gerard Way and MCR and
Yeah, you
all of
are
that.
you are the biggest Gerard Way fan, which is totally fine. I think that's great. I gotta say I haven't started this season yet, but the last season kind of lost me on it. So
Me too.
Oh yeah.
yeah, and the reviews that this has record low reviews.
Yeah, it's not shaping up to be the best season. 'Cause like I said, I don't think they have enough time to really flesh it out the way it should be.
Right.
But I'm still hopeful.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna retract. I forgot that there's only 6 episodes. We only have 2 episodes left. If it was like a 12 episode, where we're at, I think in the 4th episode we would be setting up for a really good season. But since it's more than halfway done, I don't think they're gonna be able to pull it off. And
Like
we'll
they've been
see.
doing a really good job of setting stuff up. They just don't have the time to really follow through
Right.
properly. I don't think.
Yeah, the setup is very good for it.
Maybe I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think the only thing that would get me on board is if Stephen King gave it a stamp of approval.
get out of here.
But at least
He's giving everything a stamp
But he
of
gives
approval
everything
now.
a stamp of approval. He does. I don't know if they pay him or if he's just the nicest guy in the world, but he gives everything a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Stephen King's too good with his writing, though. Like,
Yeah, he really is, man.
is really too good
I
for
do. I'm a big Stephen King buff. I love it. Tim's going through the Dark Tower right now, and Trevor's just getting into it right now.
yeah, I really had not. I don't think I read any Stephen King until about like a year ago, and now I'm on like my 3rd or 4th book, which it's a big one. I'm going through The Stand right now.
It's
It's
his biggest book.
I'm doing audio, and it's like a 40-something hour.
Are you going through the uncut version, or are you going through the like publicly released version?
I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know. Let me check my Audible real
Yeah,
quick.
I think that if you have the time to change, if it's not the extended
I
version,
mean,
go
I'm
for
only
the-
like 11 hours
go
in.
for the extended version. The extended version's so good, but that one, there's some lore behind that book. He literally he had to release the extended cut or the uncut version with I think 500 more pages, and that was like 10 years later because the publishers were saying there's too many pieces of paper in each book binding, so they were just going to lose money. So he had to cut 500 pages out.
And his books are notoriously big,
Right.
So that's a
They're
big book.
huge. I don't know how he comes up with so many words.
I know.
Yeah.
I think the craziest thing about The Stand is, if you listen, he has an interview where he's talking about it, and he's like, I was writing The Stand, and I had kind of hit a roadblock. I had all these characters, and they were in their different places, and it was setting up for something, but I couldn't figure out what it was setting up for, and I kind of just didn't know. I kind of hit a roadblock, so I put it in my desk for a couple months, and then I was on a walk one day, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, what if I just blow up half the characters?
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah. And that's what he did, and that
Smart.
actually turned that's like the catalyst for the book, for like how the tides start to turn, and
Right.
we lose some good characters, and then the rest of them kind of rally.
Which is wild. I think that is why I love his writing so much. Is he doesn't do so much like outlines and plot points. He just has these characters in his head that he goes, oh, let's see where they go.
Yeah,
and he
right.
just follows them.
Yeah,
Right.
Like we are reading the book. It's insane. I don't know how he writes like that.
I think
That's definitely his MO.
I think he doesn't know where they're going, and I think that's what keeps me intrigued. Is if he doesn't even know where they're going, I'm not gonna know where they're going.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like completely involved in these books. There's definitely some sleepers like Insomnia, but
Insomnia is literally a sleeper.
it really is.
It's literally about sleep.
It really is, and I'll tell you what, it reads like you're sleeping too.
It
It'll
reads
put
like a
you- it'll-
fever dream.
Yeah, it'll put you to sleep. It's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I've had to start it a couple of times, and Talisman's another one that's really a tougher.
The Talisman is a tough
Yeah.
one. But Tim's going through all the Dark Towers right now, and
Yeah.
you actually had to read The Stand because
did.
it ties into the Dark Tower.
It did. They all tie into the Dark Tower.
They do all tie into the
You
Dark
could
Tower.
literally
But some
read
more
all
than
of us.
others.
Yeah, some more than others. The Stand is definitely one of them that has big themes. The main antagonist from The Stand is one of the main antagonists in the Dark Tower. For you guys who don't know who the Dark Tower, or what the Dark Tower is, I guess, it's Stephen King's like Lord of the Rings. It's a 7-book, plus all of his other books that will tie into it, like universe. But it's a main character who's in an otherworldly place, and it's just him trying to save a tower which holds humanity together and the multiverse together, I guess.
In Midworld.
In Midworld, yes. But throughout the way, he'll like meet the main antagonist from The Stand, or he'll meet
Pennywise will be a part of
Pennywise's
it.
bloodline,
Oh.
Or the
main-
priest from Salem's Lot.
He's part of his
wild.
team that he gets together. And the main antagonist is actually the main antagonist who was originally introduced in Insomnia.
Yes.
Who's like the double character,
The Crimson King.
So I have no idea where it's going. It's to the point where I definitely slowed down on purpose because I don't want it to end because I know.
What? Stephen King, what was that post you just put
Yeah,
out?
he did just post on X, formerly Twitter, that the Dark Tower still stands. Or there's still some elusive
basically,
message
there's
saying
still
that he might be able
stories
to
to
pump
be
one
told.
out before he
Oh,
dies.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's like the Dark Tower's like the kind of anchor point between all
Right.
the different worlds because basically all of his books connect in some way or another because it's all just this world floating around his head as he
It
creates his
literally-
characters.
It literally is the anchor point. That's what
Yeah.
because they kind of describe it as the Dark Tower. If that blows up, then all of his books kind of
The entire
destroyed,
universe.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think like we were saying, Stephen King does write where I don't think he had any of this plotted out in the beginning. I think it all kind of came naturally, and it's incredible that it came this naturally because if you think about it, Carrie was his first real publication, and he almost didn't finish Carrie. He actually had written like a couple of chapters, threw it away, and his wife Tabitha had pulled it out of the trash and been like, "You need to finish this," and he did, and that became his first published book. But Carrie starts with a character, or I should say, the entire universe starts with a character who is a telekinetic. And telekinetics, pyrokinetics, and I guess the rest of the kinetics they're all touched on in Stephen King's works, and they all are versions of The Shine. And The Shining,
right.
touches on The Shining, and we have
Which
Danny
is like-
Torrance who shines, but he's no different than Carrie.
Right.
They just share the same power.
Right, and it's cool getting into that. Seeing the Shine's kind of like the Force.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
it's
he's got-
oh, yeah.
No, sorry.
I was gonna say a lot of people have more than others can exhibit it, but everyone kind of has a little bit of the ability to be able to master that. Just a little bit more people can use it better.
I think
But-
that's a great way of putting it. Like it's like the Force. It's his version of like supernatural powers and
Right.
magic. It's
Yeah.
his magic system is The Shining. And
Yeah.
I love
Right.
'cause, like all of his books have the supernatural element to it. And it's so good.
And if you read The Shining, he does state in The Shining that everybody in the world has the power to shine. Now, it's typically children who have a stronger shine, and as they get older, it tends to dull.
Yeah.
But some are stronger than others. So you have Danny Torrance, who is one of he has one of the strongest shines, more powerful than Carrie, more powerful than the fire catcher or fire starter.
Fire. Yeah.
And it's really cool because he even brings in elements of like different locations on Earth will increase people's shines.
Yeah.
Like one of the ones that I went through is Doomakey. And so like if
What
you
a
go to
great one.
Doomakey, it really amplifies all your powers, and so it just becomes like a shitstorm of a place on Earth.
Yeah.
Those
It
are
does.
those are like rift places around the world where there's a portal to Midworld too, and that's why it's so strong.
Oh,
too. So
okay.
you kind of get into that in the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
It's like rift points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New York has a couple of them.
Yeah, and it's cool because before the Dark Tower books, like in Doomakey and stuff. The Doomakey come out before or after?
Doomakey was
It was fairly early.
mid
right?
2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them that he doesn't touch on, and then he'll bring back around in the Dark Tower, and you're like, oh, that's what that book 10 years ago was meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
He
it's very
does do
fun.
that.
Yeah, I definitely recommend reading all of them, and then reading like It and The Stand and all of his other ones that go along with it.
Yeah,
It's so fun.
If
You
you're
can
looking
find
for a
list.
lifelong,
Yeah.
reading companion, Stephen King's your
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Which
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
into. Like now that I've gotten into them, I don't ever stop. Like
Yeah.
I will not stop reading Stephen King
Until they're all done.
I'm done, which
Until
I
you're
will
done.
never be.
Yeah.
Well, that's
but,
the thing.
Like a good jumpstart for me is like having you guys who are really into it, so I know like which books to go to next instead of just kind of wandering through them, which I'm sure I could. I
Yeah.
would enjoy it all,
Yeah.
but like having a direction to go is super helpful.
A
and
lot of
that's
them
why,
are
like,
so nuanced,
I'm so glad you guys have that deep knowledge, and especially like you're working on a deep dive of really how they all connect.
We
Yeah.
do. We were on YouTube. Tim and I were on YouTube, and we're really big into iceberg videos. And we were kind of like, I wonder why there hasn't been like a really good deep dive into all of Stephen King's works, like where he was, because he does write himself into the Dark Tower, where he's actually a character in the Dark Tower. But realistically, the way that he writes is, we'll start, what happens if this happens to these types of people, you know? And then he just kind of goes from there. So a lot of himself and his life is in these books inadvertently. So I think that, you know, one of the things we want to touch on is where was Stephen King in his life when he wrote this book?
He's definitely listening to AC/DC and Led
Yeah.
and he brings all the classic rock and
yeah. Where was he when he was writing these books in his life? And then how do these books tie into all the other books? Because there are some books where you'll read like a 600-page manuscript and you'll catch one sentence that ties it into the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Where it's
But it
not,
makes the world
it's not,
difference.
yeah, but it makes the world
Like,
difference. It's not
oh.
like the Marvel universe where it's like, you know, Spider-Man's swinging in and, you know, Pennywise is over here.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to know what you're reading.
Sometimes it's just like a blink and you'll miss it
such
type
a-
deal.
You have to know what you're looking for.
You have to like dig
otherwise
for
you
it,
will miss
and you're
it.
like, oh, that's what that is.
And sometimes you'll read the book, like Tim said, sometimes you read the book and you have to wait 20 years for another book to come out to even to be like, oh, wait, that was that, you know?
Yeah.
I was just reading, he just released a new collection of short stories called If You Like It Darker. And there's a book in there. He did a sequel to Cujo, which was a book that I think his fourth book that he ever wrote, which would have been in 78, you know? So he said that he was writing this story and he didn't realize that this was where the story was going to go. He was saying that, you know, I didn't realize that I was going to come back to these characters. But as I was writing
4.5 decades later.
as I was writing this story, I said, wait a second, these are these characters,
Yeah.
you know? And he actually, in that story, I think he goes to an island that's right next to Duma Key. So he talks, he talks about Duma Key. It all takes place in the same area, and that's kind of one of the things that, you know, the catalyst for it and so on and so forth. But, you know, you do have to wait. Now, one of the things that I think is pretty interesting is, you know, because Stephen King has such a great output, and we know that he writes, let's say, 6 pages a day, he's got a lot of manuscripts and work that has not been touched on, you know?
Oh, I'm sure he's got
Like
a whole
that-
library
That's what I'm
full of
saying.
stuff.
That's just in the desk drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Well, even like going through his on writing, he talks about how Carrie, he had thrown in the trash at some point. His wife pulled out, was like, you should keep writing this.
yeah, exactly. And I think that one of the things that I'm looking forward to, kind of, you know, not looking forward to, is he's getting up there in age, and, you know, there's going to be a point where he's going to pass away. Now, Joe Hill, his son, is doing a great job at kind of keeping the whole legacy of horror writing alive. But it's not the same. And I'm interested to see, once he passes away, they start releasing his, you know,
oh, like the posthumous types.
stuff, you know. And I'm really interested in that because I'm a big Ernest Hemingway fan as well. And 2 of my favorite stories of Ernest Hemingway were his posthumous stuff, you know. So I'm really kind of excited for that. There may be some things that, you know, tie some things together. I'm interested, you know. Even if Joe Hill gets in to finish some stuff, or even his other son Owen, you know.
Yeah, which I haven't read any Joe Hill stuff yet, but from what I've heard from you guys, he's got a pretty similar voice to his
He
dad.
does. He's got some good hits. I've not read as much Joe Hill either, but I definitely...
He has Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Nosferatu. Not the classic movie, but there's like a retelling of it with... They did a show with Zachary Levi? What's his name? No.
Quinto?
Quinton, yeah.
Yeah.
Zachary Quinto?
Yeah. Spock?
Yeah, Spock. Yeah, that's his name. He played the character, and it's like a modern retelling of Nosferatu. And then he also did for Marvel Comics, I think, Lock and Key.
Yeah. He's done comics too.
Yeah, which was a
Ooh,
big...
I watched the Netflix adaptation. I loved it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
That's Joe Hill.
That's Joe Hill. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The
Okay,
Black
that's cool.
Phone with Ethan Hawke, which they're doing a second one of now.
Ooh.
Which I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll see.
Yeah,
if Ethan Hawke's in it, I'm into it.
Oh, yeah.
Are we?
I don't think he has a bad movie.
No, I don't think he
Dude,
does.
really?
I don't think he does.
Really?
Ethan Hawke is handsome.
Not
Hawke
Gattaca?
is, yeah, handsome Hawke is forever.
Gattaca's awesome.
Gattaca is, I can't even say. I'll tell you a bad Ethan Hawke movie. It's the Daybreakers.
What are you talking about? Daybreakers was
No,
fun.
it wasn't.
It was
great,
all
but
right. It wasn't bad.
No,
I
it was
haven't seen that one.
bad.
I think
Check it
Tom
out.
Cruise and Ethan Hawke are the same, where they don't have any bad movies.
You're wild.
You really think
dude.
Tom Cruise doesn't have any bad movies?
Name a bad Tom Cruise movie.
Shit.
Yeah. No, he's got bad movies. Don't give up that easy.
I'm sure he does, but I can't think off the
Just
top of my
think.
head. It's not an easy poll, but he's gotta.
He doesn't.
Minority Report.
I've done the research. Minority Report was great. You get out of here. That's a Philip K. Dick right
I
there.
don't know. He's got some alright ones.
So I actually got into reading EC Comics recently because EC Comics is now back, which is kind of cool. It's not the same as the original EC Comics, but they're trying to keep the name alive. And they've come out with 2 issues, and I've picked up both issues, a couple copies of both issues actually, because they have different covers. But I've been trying to get into that because, you know, the original EC Comics is what inspired Stephen King when he was a kid. You know, he was reading EC Comics when he was a kid, and he'd read Tales from the Crypt, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of got him into horror. Not to mention, it also got Ray Bradbury, Philip K. Dick. It got, you know, a lot of these other great science fiction writers into writing science fiction, into writing horror, you know? So I'm a firm believer that if you want to be good at your craft,
Read comics.
I think read comics. Yeah. Just find out who you like, which would be Stephen King for me, and then find out who they liked and who they were inspired by, and go back down the. So I'm not necessarily influenced by Stephen King. I'm influenced by who influenced Stephen King as well. You know, I get the full picture.
Right, as well as the person. That
As
you're
well as the
influenced
person,
by.
you know, and then you could see where you look, where you fit into the puzzle, and you can say, oh, this is where it's left off. Now I can pick up from here.
Yeah. So have you been reading them? You like them?
Yeah.
You like? Have you read any of the original? Did you read any comics growing up?
So you know, I never really got into it until recently, but I picked up the 2 new issues, but I've also picked up a couple of older issues of like the original EC Comics,
Right.
as well. And actually, one of them that I have right now is the weird science kind of moniker.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I think Ray Bradbury, Richard Matheson, which was another great science fiction author, actually does one of those comics.
Yeah. But that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't traditionally kind of deter off of just traditional comics, DC or Marvel, some Dark Horse. But I'd like to get into EC Comics a little bit more and see a little bit more horror aspect of comics, because I think there's a lot of untapped in the comic world that I have not. A lot.
There's so much out there that we
Right.
haven't touched on. Like, we have, like, obviously the big staples that all the movies that are coming out for, but there's a plethora of stories and characters out there in comics, and it's so good.
And science fiction and horror goes hand in hand.
It
And I
does.
think those have both been the black sheep children, you know, the bastard children of, you know, media for the longest time. And I think that's where you get a lot of your greatest voices. And some of them gain a lot of, you know, recognition, but not really the recognition that they deserve. Like Stephen King, you know, he's a prolific author, but gets trashed by the critics.
And we've talked about this multiple times where horror is huge. People love it, and yet you never see horror at any of the award shows.
No,
You never do.
no, it's weird. In fact, most people like us will trash horror movies before they come out because they're just like, I'm expecting it to be bad. It's like, oh, here we go, another 2 hours of my life.
It's so weird. Like, there's such like a low bar for horror, and yet they can have such good stuff still.
Yeah, so I'm excited to jump more into those EC comics and start to read more about those. I think, you know, the Tales of the Crypt, they have different monikers, so it's like they have, the original EC Comics had Tales from the Crypt, Weird Science, they had Weird Tales, I think, as well, Weird Fantasy, so they would touch on, you know, fantasy, they would touch on science fiction, they would touch on horror. I'm not so sure how I feel about their new character, because, you know, for the longest time, their character from Tales of the Crypt was, like, the narrator, I should say, the host of the comic was the Crypt Keeper, which is a great character. But they have a couple of new ones now, and it's called Epitaph from the Abyss is their new moniker, and I think their new character, the Grave Digger, I'm not sure how I feel about him yet. But we'll see. You know, time will tell. So.
Yeah, time will tell. So that's what you've been kind of going over?
Yeah, that's
Do
what
you
I've been
have
going
anything else? Trev, do you have anything else that you've been kind of going over?
No, not really. I mean, we all started like The Hobbit the other day because we can never not go back to Lord of the Rings. But we'll touch on that in a later topic. We'll do like a whole deep dive monster marathon of Lord of the Rings and do a special episode for y'all.
I think how we'll do it is we can do a, you know, Rings of Power and the 6 movies.
Yeah.
And then when Rings of Power Season 2 comes out, we'll do just an episode specifically on that.
I don't know. That sounds like a lot. a lot of,
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds like a
lot of research on that. And then we all read the books. Have a book club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I still have to go through those. I read The Hobbit and half of The Fellowship of the Ring, but I still have yet to finish that book or any of the others.
I'll tell you what, Trev. You don't have to watch any of them. You don't have to read any of them. All you have to do is watch the 80s cartoons of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. You'll be fine.
Ooh, I didn't even know they
Yeah.
got 80s
They're
cartoons.
scary, man.
They're
What?
scary.
Yeah,
They're scary.
It's like they're like half animation, half.
They use that rotoscope
Yeah.
technology,
yeah.
so it's like
It
you
was
know,
like
it's
taking
the
like a live
Nazgul.
action and kind of turning it into animation.
Yeah, so the Nazgul are like real people, just shadows.
It's shadow
though,
people.
Oh yeah.
against like a little, animated Frodo. It's actually terrifying.
It's terrifying.
When you get to
Sounds wild.
when you get to Mordor, it's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. We got to include that with the whole marathon then.
Yeah. The Hobbit movie is not the same, but it's also a fun one.
It's also a fun one.
It's
Yeah.
a fun one. Yeah, the one we watched growing up a lot. But yeah, so I just been going through the works, just watching Umbrella Academy and The Hobbit with you. I watched my first episode of One Piece. I've watched in like a month and a half today.
At that pace, you're never gonna
And
finish
that's
it.
it. Never gonna finish it. I'll tell you what. Yeah, my buddy and I back in Chicago were really trying to get, because he had been to like episode 1015, and I'm like, okay, I'm at episode 800. I got 2 months before I leave. You're not moving with me, so I'll get there so we can actually catch up and watch a couple episodes together. And from that point to where I'm at now, I've watched 6 episodes.
Like what, 20-minute episodes?
Yeah, he's like 18 minutes. And he's like, where you at? I'm caught up. And I'm like, I watched like 5 episodes. It's like, right here.
You are so
So
far
I've been,
behind.
I've been so busy with stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's true. We've been very busy.
Yeah. So I just haven't had time, but it's such a good show, once again. And then I think, honestly, that's all I've been kind of entertainment-wise. I've been working a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of time.
As we all have, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Pixar book, of course, which I talked about. But yeah, those.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap it up then. With
Yeah.
a couple good would you
Would
rathers.
Yeah, let's do it. Trev, you got anything?
I do. So I got, would you rather be immortal, but you have to replace every part of your body as it fails because your body parts can still fail, like kidneys fail or like if your arm gets hurt, and it'd be super easy to repair. So like say you need to like replace your arm, you could just sew on a new arm and it'll just magically kind of reattach. But you got to keep sourcing parts. Or would you rather be a shapeshifter and you have to peel off all your skin every time you want to shapeshift?
I feel like the immortal, because I feel like that's kind of where we're going right now with modern science and technology.
Yeah.
Give it 50 years and we'll be able to do that.
I mean,
That's
it's
why-
pretty
yeah.
close to it, but
Yeah.
like that'd be such a pain to
Yeah,
source all those
right.
parts. Like, where are you gonna find an arm? Where are you
Yeah.
gonna find all those kidneys?
Wait lists. Put me on the hospital
Yeah,
wait
put me on the
list.
wait list.
Yeah. Organ donors.
Yeah.
I would choose immortal, personally.
I would choose the shape-shifting, I think.
Yeah,
I
I go
think
shape.
even though I have to pull myself apart every time, I would rather do that than, because would you have the knowledge and the resources to be able to do surgery on yourself, or
Yeah, you'd be able to do it. You just have to find the parts.
you did go on the black market?
Yeah, yeah, you have to
someone's
find some
arm
body
off.
parts. That's the toughest part. That's why I go shapeshifter, because you don't have to source human body parts. And then, if you decide to give up, you're immortal, so you're just going to eventually fall apart until
That's what
you're
I'm saying,
like
but
this
then you would
decrepit,
die,
disabled
right?
thing. No, you're immortal.
Oh, you would be alive as like a little
Yeah.
worm?
You just kind of eventually deteriorate
I
until
don't
you
know.
can't put yourself back together
That's
and
a
you
good
turn
one.
into a ghost.
All right, I might retract and say shapeshifter. That would be disgusting.
I think the shapeshifter. But would you be hurt when you're ripping off your skin? Would it feel like you're ripping off your skin actually, or would it
Yeah.
be just like it's like falling, like it's shedding?
All right,
Was
I'm
it not
retracting
quite as
again.
bad?
Going back to
It wouldn't be
Taking it
quite
back.
as bad as if you were to actually rip off your own skin right now.
Yeah.
But it would be
But
like
there'd
kind
still
of
be
half
some
sticky.
pain.
Yeah.
There'd be some pain.
Yeah. Okay.
What about
Okay.
anybody else having that one?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. I have one that's a little bit silly, but would you rather be the only person who talks out of your butt, or
A lot of people that talk out of their butt.
Yeah, like literally, or you're just shit talking?
no. Would you rather be the only person who talks out of their butt, like literally,
Okay.
like you talk out of your butt, or be the only person who doesn't talk out of your butt? You talk out
I
of your
would
mouth.
be the only person who doesn't talk out of my butt.
Yeah, but what if it's the social norm then?
Yeah, but does it start now? Like, do I have prior knowledge of when people talk out of their mouths?
No.
Oh, okay, then I would talk out my butt because I would be a freak.
Yeah.
then.
So
I would be a freak.
would it change be based on that one variable?
Yeah.
If it's a social norm or not already?
If it's a social norm, I mean, I'm not going to know any different. There's plenty of cannibals
Right.
out there who just don't know any different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, either way, you're the social oddball.
All right. What about starting now? If
Oh, I would totally talk in my mouth still.
really?
Yeah. Like if everyone just switched to their butts and I was in my mouth, I'd be a god.
Really?
Yeah.
But 50 years
That's
down,
right.
50 years down the line,
Yeah.
you might be the
Yeah,
outcast.
50 years down the line, I'm probably almost dead.
I would have a
If
ton
not
of,
dead.
I would have a ton of children,
Okay.
and I would teach them the right way.
All right.
And I would start my own cult, and we would
But
all
how do
be
you-
mouth speakers.
But how do you teach them to talk out of the wrong
Yeah,
part?
I mean, I can't teach someone to talk out of their butt right now, so how are you going to do that?
We are mouth speakers in this house. You talk with your mouth.
All right, you can try.
I don't know, because at that point, I don't think you'd be able to talk out of your mouth.
Yeah.
I think it would just be.
I think the only pull towards talking my butt would be I'd be able to do
Wrong.
a better impersonation of Ace Ventura than Ace Ventura.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong. Because if I can speak out of my mouth, genetically speaking, I have a 50-50 chance of getting a child that can also speak out of his mouth. I'm going to just keep having kids until I get children that speak out of their mouths, and I'm going
You
to
would
breed
have
those
to-
I
kids.
don't think it's that deep.
I would say you would have to inbreed.
That's okay. That's how it all started in the beginning. You know, I'm not advocating inbreeding. I'm just saying it all had to start that way somewhere. If you believe
If we want people talking out of their mouths, it's kind of
It's just
required.
science.
it's
Yeah.
just science. Yeah, it's just science.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So.
But,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, so we
yeah.
got one person on inbreeding and 2 people on talking out of your butt.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
It's a crazy way around it, I guess.
yeah, so that's the 7th episode of Pink Moose Productions podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and keep an eye posted for the next couple. Like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and we'll be having these come out every week going forward. Look forward for that Batman promotion. We will be doing that all over throughout LA. We're going to try and turn LA into Gotham City on a very low budget, so we'll see what we can do. And I think we have some good ideas to make it work. And keep an eye out for those Lord of the Rings special episodes here on the Pink Moose podcast.
Yeah, and also, I really want to hear you guys' Would You Rather. Like, if you have different ones to ask us, I would love to hear. Otherwise, I want to know your opinions. Like, would you rather be immortal or shapeshifter?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what end do you want to talk out of?
Drop your comments in the comment
Or
section.
even if you have some good ones that you'd like us to talk about in our
Yeah.
next episode.
Shoot us a
really, really
message.
fun ones. Yeah.
Our
please.
Instagram is Pink Moose Productions. Our YouTube is Pink Moose Productions. Our Facebook is
It's
Pink Moose
Productions.
You
Our
can look
website
up-
is
Yeah, it's
www.
Pretty easy to
Pinkmoose
find us. We got
Moose Productions.
If you just Google Pink Moose Productions,
Yeah, you'll find
pretty
us.
dominating.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
a lot
we
of other people
dominate
got
the
that
Google page.
name.
Yeah, so. All right,
All
well,
right.
you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you for tuning in.
All right.